Hi, I'm Nick at Sideview, and this is Cooking with Sideview, Episode 7. In this episode, we're going to focus on table drill down. That's to say, the ability to click on a Sideview table module and for it to have the UI do something. This can be divided up roughly into what we call inline drill down, where the click on the table row just drives some additional interaction in the same page. Frequently, another search is kicked off. You might render more charts or more tables, but you never leave the same page. That's inline drill down. And secondly, is maybe what you think of as the more common kind of drill down, where the click actually causes the user to change to a different page, and arguments are frequently passed over to that other page, and something happens over there. Let's start with the first kind, inline drill down, because it ends up being such a simple mechanism that the inline drill down is easier to understand. Here, oh, and by the way, this talk is largely mirroring two pages that are inside View, key techniques and linking from view to view, as well as key techniques inline drill down. Technically, we're going to cover some other stuff that's under module documentation, the table module, and inline drill down as well. So if you want the full version of this, this little brief talk, come and read through the docs, and you'll get a lot more information and more details. But back to the example. Here we have a simple view up here. It's an example view that I'm going to walk through. And then down below it is the XML for that view. If you haven't made your video full screen already, I strongly recommend it. If it's not full screen, you probably can't read a single thing on this page. And apologies if you're more of a Sideview editor person and less of an XML editor. I could walk through this whole demo using the editor, but I'm going to instead do it with the XML. You can email me privately to harangue me about that decision if you like. So here we have a table module. Let's go through the XML briefly though. So here's the search. The search, don't pay attention to how complicated it is. It's just an example. It feeds the table module, and the table module renders the results of that search. In this case, there's 3 rows, and their full name, sessions, and favorite day. Technically, in the search, there were 2 other fields as well, user ID and username. Those are not there. This is by virtue of the table's hidden fields param. It's not really part of drill down, but it's so commonly used in drill downs that I kind of have to mention it. So again, here we have a table module. And you notice that there's an HTML module below that table module. In fact, there's 2 HTML modules. And there's a search, and the search there's a bunch of stuff basically downstream from the table. If you don't know what upstream and downstream are, refer first to Sideview, Cooking with Sideview Episode 6, where we actually kind of overview the advanced XML as a whole. So what does it mean for something to be downstream from a table module? Picture for a moment that the table module is just a really, really badly designed radio button. It's a really weirdly designed pull down or something. It's a form control. So the things downstream from it are waiting for the user to select something in that table. So it's really just waiting for one of the rows to be selected. So everything downstream knows to just stay quiet and hidden and don't make any noise, sit at the back until the moment when someone clicks on a table. So let's click on Agatha Christie. Okay, now everything downstream from the table just suddenly got a push of data, and they got a selected row, and all hell broke loose here. So this HTML module just rendered itself. It rendered out Agatha Christie, 187, and Wednesday. So we can get all of the values from the fields, from the selected row. We've also managed to render out the values of those 2 hidden fields. Even though those weren't in the physical table, they were still available in the drill down data. And so we're able to render them in this HTML module. Likewise, we have another one here, and this says showing the 10 most recent events on Agatha Christie's favorite day, which was Wednesday. And there's that guy here. Here he is rendering out the drill down token from the table module, which you now can see is simply $row.fields.fieldname and $. So you can access any of the fields this way. And that right there is how inline drill down works. You can do whatever you want, just put it downstream from a table. You could put 17 charts down there. You could put 5 searches and 3 more tables. You can put anything you want. And then the table module will simply push to it, and everything else will happen as though the table module was just a very peculiar pull down. So what about the other kind? What about the kind of drill down where you leave the page? Let's talk about that. So ultimately, leaving the page is the job of the Sideview redirector module. Except, of course, if you've made a link in an HTML tag, an HTML module, which you certainly could do. So let's look at the redirector. Redirector documentation is, not surprisingly, all in here. And key techniques, linking from view to view. Linking intro. Let's go to this page. You could crib from any of these other pages too, but let's go and crib from this. So here's a redirector module. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back over to my view, and I'm going to put a redirector downstream from the table, and I'm going to replace all of this other stuff that was here. Okay, it's all gone. Now I just have a table. Now I have a table with one downstream redirector. Well, right now I just created a drill down that goes to another page. It's just going to be broken because I need to change all these things. So say I've created another view called example target view, and I need to pass that view two fields. I need to pass it, let me just go and look. I need to pass it full name, and I need to pass it favorite day. Okay, I can do that. How you use the redirector is you set the URL just separately. It can be an external URL, in which case you would do, a fully qualified domain name and a protocol and everything. You could do this. You could do things like that, and it would work just fine. It would go to google.com. Or you can just leave it as a plain old string, in which case it'll be interpreted as a view name in the same app. So what did I say? I needed a full name argument, and that is row.fields.fullname, right? Well, the docs will explain why, but it is best practice to always use the raw value version of a dollar token when you are using a redirector. The reason has to do with URL encoding and search language escaping, and it's not particularly interesting. But it's a very good best practice, and it allows you to stay out of trouble. So we're passing full name, and we're passing favorite day. We're not actually passing time range here, although you normally would. So I'm just going to delete that earliest and latest. Row.fields.favoriteday.raw value. Take a last look, make sure I don't have an egregious typo. Okay, I'm going to use the fresh maker to tell Splunk to pull up the view from disk again. Go back and refresh my page. Let's click Agatha Christie. Goodness, we have now been redirected to another page. It worked. The redirector built our little URL, and it was example target view, question mark, favorite day equals Wednesday, full name equals Agatha Christie, as it was supposed to do. That's what redirector does. It just sends the user to this URL. It is best, again, to use these arg.foo params. You could technically build it all in here with foo tokens, but don't do it because the escaping won't work out properly. Or at least you'll have to worry about it. You don't want to worry about URL encoding values, trust me. So here's our target view. All we did was put a URL loader at the top of the page. URL loader basically does the inverse of what redirector does. URL loader knows how to look at the URL and says, huh, that's funny. Someone told me to set these two keys to these two values. Okay, no problem. I will set $favorite day to Wednesday and $full name to Agatha Christie. And then, as if by magic, all of the downstream modules from URL loader will be able to access those foo tokens, including the HTML module, who just wants to render them out, and including the search module, who wants to use favorite day to run a search. The rest just happens as if by magic. Last little thing I'm going to do is drill downs to pages that have no form elements are kind of lame and certainly not common. So say I want to put these into text fields or pull downs. I want to pre-populate some kind of form element on this other page with these two values. That's basically what you would always want to do, right? So the answer with Sideview utils is very, very simple, and that is you just throw a form element module in the page. And if you don't remember, there are a number of form element modules in the app under module documentation. Form search modules, pull down, text field, checkbox, checkboxes, checkbox pull down, radio, and date time. There's also time range picker and search bar in the core Splunk set that also have been patched to work with this convention. So the convention is you simply put your module into the page, excuse me, and you give it a name param that matches the name of the URL token. Exactly. It's case sensitive, it has to be perfect, it has to be exactly the same thing. Okay, full name. And I'm going to do one more. And I'm going to do one for favorite day. And I'm going to indent, I'm going to carefully indent the rest of the view. And I'm going to make sure to close my module tags. Yes, yes, XML is a terrible, terrible configuration language for a user interface. I know this, I'm sorry. Text fields. All right, this is sufficient. This would work. We probably want to give these guys labels so we know which one's which. This is, I mean, a visual label, so it'll render in the UI. So we call this full name. And we'll call this favorite day. Yay! Okay, that's all she wrote. The arguments to the page aren't going to change, so I'm just going to reload the drill down page. Boom. There we go. So that's how you do a drill down that redirects to another page, and how you pre-populate form elements on that second page. If you want to use a pull down or a checkbox pull down or a tabs module or a radio or any of those Sideview form element modules, you just do the exact same thing. You put them in here. You give them a name param that matches the argument exactly. And remember, the argument in the URL is of course going to match the redirector arg exactly. And last but not least, it's a best practice to make the field names in your search to be those same args. You don't have to, but it just helps you save sanity if everything in the universe is called full name or username or database ID. I recommend not doing weird funky little things like calling this full name text field or trying to get clever and saying selected full name. Just call it the thing that it is, and you'll be less confused down the road. That's it. That's all of table drill down. Thanks for watching, and check back soon for more episodes. Take care.